This is a CC Radio podcast.
It was just the most massive thing I've ever seen. To tell you the honest truth, I thought, well, we're the only ones left on this planet. Something's happened. We've missed something here.
The fear that went in me when I seen it was just, like the feeling, I'd say it was fear, but I've never felt that feeling before in my entire life.
It's a weird feeling, like you can't explain it when you don't know. You feel like you're being followed, but you don't know what it is.
We had two to our right, another one in front of us, another one to the left, and another one just across the road, shaking the daylight out of the tree. All we get was a big red eye.
I remember waking up and looking at the end of the bed, and there was a figure there, almost insect-like, and then I blacked out.
Welcome to the show, everyone. You are listening to Believe, Paranormal and UFO Radio. My name is Cade Moyer, and thanks for tuning in. If you've had an encounter, get in touch with me. My email address is believe@ccradio.com.au, or you can message me on Facebook at facebook.com/Believe UFO Radio. If you enjoy this episode, there are a few things you can do to help the show. Firstly, you can go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and review, or you can share the show around social media with your friends and family, and that will help us grow. Tonight I'm joined by Abby, and Abby's had paranormal events all her life, and one particularly really terrifying encounter, and she wants to come on the show to discuss them. Abby, welcome to the program.
Hi, Cade. Thanks for having me.
I am very nervous about your story because even reading it scared the crap out of me, and I'm so thankful that you've come on the show to to basically share it with everyone else that listens to it. So do you mind walking us through this absolutely terrifying encounter?
Sure. Well, I'm very nervous to tell you about it because I actually haven't told very many people about this at all. I could probably count on one hand how many people I've told, and it wouldn't even fill up all the fingers. I don't think I've even mentioned this to my husband, to be honest.
Wow.
It's not really something that I like to talk about, and it's not really sort of an energy that I want to generate in my home. But anyway, here we go. So this happened it was about 12 years ago now, and I was living in a very small coastal town, so very, very small, and I was living in a cottage. I've always called it a one-bedroom cottage, but there was actually a little room attached, but it was hardly a bedroom. It was more like a study. Anyway, so I think from the first night that I lived there, I sort of noticed when I went to sleep, I mean, it's a bit weird, but I almost always sleep on my right side, but this was facing the wall in this cottage, and I felt really uncomfortable. The feeling, if I had to describe it, was I felt like there was eyes just boring into my back. And so I rolled over to my left to face the door. And I didn't really think anything of it. I just sort of dismissed it, and that's just how I slept there. I just never faced the wall when I slept because it felt uncomfortable. And this house was so old that it actually had an external bathroom and toilet. And I noticed that when I'd go down to use the bathroom, I'd hear footsteps inside, and I'd sometimes hear things moving, like quite noisily, like to the degree that I actually thought that maybe one of my family members had popped in because they had keys to the house as well. And then when I come back inside, there'd be nobody there, and nothing would have moved and nothing would have changed. And so I just I'm a very practical, logical person. I just wrote it off as, it's just an old house. It's just a house, settling or whatever. And so I lived pretty happily and pretty comfortable in in this little cottage by myself. I had my brother's dog living with me at the time. He just couldn't live with him at the time. But I had, they'd newly renovated this cottage, so it had polished floors, so I couldn't let the dog sleep inside, so he had to sleep outside. Anyway, one morning, I got woken up to the sound of the key going into the lock. It had a deadbolt on the front door. And so I was lying sort of with my back facing the wall, sort of looking out towards the door. And this cottage was so small that from where I was actually sleeping, I could see the front door from my bed. And so I was shitting myself. And I saw this door open, and there was a man coming in, and he did have a key because his hand was up at the deadlock. And he was a little bit taller than me, and he looked quite stocky and muscular. And he was wearing, originally I thought it was like a singlet, but now that I think about it, it was more like a white muscle tee and some jeans. I didn't see what he had on his feet because from where I was lying, I couldn't see his feet. And he had sort of a round, mean face. He was bald or balding with like a shaved head of what was left, and sort of a round nose. He looked like he was in probably, I'd say, mid-40s, maybe 50 or so. And I was just lying there, just terrified. I thought, oh my God, my house is getting broken into. And I remember thinking, you know how they always sort of say, oh, if your house ever gets broken into, they just want to steal your stuff. And it's when people wake up and disturb them that's when they get hurt. So that's sort of what I was thinking. I was thinking maybe if I just pretend that I'm asleep, this person will just take whatever they want and they'll leave me alone. And yeah, like I was just hoping that he wouldn't hurt me and he wouldn't rape me. Those were my thoughts. So I saw sort of like, I could see quite a lot because the light from outside, the street light was shining through the window. And I shut my eyes and I could hear his footsteps coming towards my bedroom. And so I was just lying there pretending that I was asleep. I remembered that I had my phone. My phone was under my pillow, but it was behind me. But I was thinking, okay, I've got that there. And I just lay there just for what felt like quite a long time, just pretending that I was asleep and just hoping like heck that this guy would just take whatever he wanted and leave me alone. Anyway, eventually I didn't hear anything for ages. And I hadn't heard him walk away, but I thought maybe he's gone and he's going to leave me alone. And I opened my eyes and his face was about 3 inches in front of my face, staring at me.
Oh, wow, you're kidding.
No, it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. And I went to scream and my voice caught in my throat. And I just didn't know what to do. And he didn't do anything, but he just stared at me. And the way that he was staring at me, it was just with such pure hatred like I've never experienced in my life. And I thought, this guy wants to kill me. And my mind was just going a million miles an hour. I was thinking, what do I do? What do I do? And he didn't do anything but stare at me. And I was sort of trying to think to myself, if I make a move or yell, is he going to grab me? Do you know what I mean? Like I was so scared stiff that I thought to myself, if I do something, will that initiate a response from him? Because right now he's just staring at me. And we must have stared like this for, I think it was probably